Yep. All right. Okay, so good morning. So we will be continuing in our series of lessons on joining Jesus, right? Joining Jesus. But before that, I'm going to address something, and if you have questions, please feel free to ask them about this before we get into our normally scheduled thing. All right. So unless you just are completely oblivious, she's in there. Unless you just don't pay attention to these things at all, you're probably aware that the President of the United States has been banned from social media. And there are, Denise is in there if you want to have him up. Our president has been banned from social media. And there's many people who have cheered this. Like, yes, this is a good thing. Yes, this is a good thing. Yes, this is a good thing. And I just want you to be aware of the potential implications of this. I don't care at all whether or not you like our president or despise our president. It matters not. One of the things that has made it possible for Christianity to flourish in this nation has been freedom of speech. And you do not have freedom of speech unless you allow your enemies to have freedom of speech. If only the people who agree with you are allowed to speak, that is not freedom of speech. It is why I was 2-3 years ago, I don't know, there was supposed to be a KKK rally in Orange County, and somebody said to me, man, I can't believe they're allowing this. And I said, I'm glad they're allowing this. And they said, well, why? You don't support them. Well, of course I don't support the KKK. But if you can stop the KKK from having an assembly, a rally, a march of this or whatever, then you can also stop the church from doing the same thing. Does it make sense? Yeah. Okay, so we need to be very mindful. The basis of freedom of speech is the freedom to have your enemies be able to talk as much as you're able to talk. So as a passionate Christian, as somebody who has zero doubt whatsoever in the existence of God, the fact that he created this entire universe in 6 24-hour days, the fact that he loves us, the fact that Jesus, God incarnate, came to this planet, lived and died and resurrected to save us from our sins. I have zero doubt in any of that. But I would never once advocate for the censorship of an atheist to be able to argue their point of view. My confidence in my faith isn't in the absence of an alternate message. It is in the confidence of the facts and the truth by which I live my life. And so we need to be very, very careful about sharing anyone being censored. I'm going to finish up this little bit with one other comment, and then I will see if there's any questions or comments amongst you all. Keep in mind that 10 years ago, okay, we're in 2021. If we were to scroll back to 2011, it would not be a debatable topic to say that only women can have babies. Now that is a controversial statement. It is now in America in 2021 a controversial statement if I say only women can have babies. If I say boys are boys and girls are girls, that is now a controversial topic. So if you celebrate the censorship of a president because you disagree with him, be careful, because 10 years from now, the things you believe might be the things that are censored. And you say, oh, no, because I don't hold radical views. Well, keep in mind, in America, in 2021, it is now seen as a radical view to believe only women have babies. So the censorship line, once it's embraced, will change just as rapidly as we can go from believing forever that boys are boys and girls are girls, and that women are the only things that have babies. to now making it where it's controversial and thus possible for censorship in that. There are many, many views that I despise, that I disagree with, but I'm thankful they exist, because though I wish everybody in the world agreed with me, I would much rather have the freedom for me to voice my positions and them to voice theirs, and for us to have a debate about ideas, than to have some person or some people begin to arbitrarily say, you can't say this and you can't say that. We are walking into a new phase of America, where we are censoring, and censoring with applause. And that's dangerous. And it's super dangerous. And it's dangerous for this reason. Not because people don't say things incorrectly, not because people don't speak things dishonestly. So it has nothing to do with that. It's dangerous because who determines what gets spoken and what doesn't? That's why it's dangerous. And I think America, I think the world, I think Christianity is much better off in a culture where all voices can be heard than to have voices arbitrarily heard based on what one person determines is allowable versus isn't allowable. And so I just want you to be mindful of that, because there's a tremendous temptation to say, yes, they shouldn't be allowed to speak, right? They shouldn't be allowed to speak. I'll give you one last thing. I didn't plan to say this, but I'll say this because it's been something that has been true for a very long time. When I talk to atheists about school and the fact that only evolution is taught in school, I don't argue that they should stop teaching evolution in school. I argue that if you're going to teach evolution, there's two things that should come with it. One, you only teach it as a theory, of which it is. And two, you allow the creation point of view to also be shared. See, now what we're doing is we're having a playing field with competitive ideas where people can hear the evidence and make their choices. But when we cheer the fact that our enemies are being silenced, just wait until you're the one being silenced. And you think, I've been cheering this until it was me. We wonder why Nazi Germany, how is it possible that 6 million Jews and gypsies and the like could be massacred? Well, it starts off with the fact that they started taking the people you didn't like. You didn't like that Jewish banker who you thought charged you too much interest. And so when that person disappeared, you cheered it until they started to take your neighbors. And in the same way, censorship starts with applause. Get rid of this person, get rid of this person, get rid of this person, until it's you that they're getting rid of, because you thought you were safe because you had reasonable ideas. And that's why I say, keep in mind, 10 years ago, it was seen as reasonable to publicly announce that only women have babies. And now that is controversial. And so, no, but listen, that's a good question. No man has ever had a baby. But because our kids, go ahead.
Oh, they had an article about a lady that turned into a man.
She didn't turn into a man. Go ahead.
And she had a baby, so they were like trying to say that.
No, I know, but that's what I'm saying. Women do not turn into men. Just because you have surgeries does not make you a man. Okay? And so no man has ever had a child from Adam and Eve up to the present. No man has never ever had a child. Okay? But advocates for this absurdity have played with the language so much so that they say that if you think you're a man, you're a man. And if I think I'm a man, but I have all the biological parts of a woman and I have a baby, now you say men can have babies. Okay? And that, we live in a world where some people claim that they believe in science, but they also believe in that. And I ask you to square that and try to reconcile that. Okay? But the point I'm trying to make is is it's now controversial, and you see this. For example, you will see this term used in public literature. It will say birthing people. Birthing people is the new term that used to be just called mothers or women. Okay, they're now birthing people. Why? Because they're trying to cover for the fact that we now live in a fantasy land that believes men can have babies. Okay, so I'm just saying we all think that we are the rational ones. Okay, but when someone, a third party, arbitrarily decides, no, your thoughts are rational and yours aren't, just wait till what you believe is rational is now considered radical, and then now you're silenced. And so we just need to be careful about that. I do not care. I would never ever advocate for an atheist to be silenced, to be censored, though I vehemently disagree with their position, because I want all voices to be heard, and then allow people to make the choices that they need to make based on the information that they choose to make, even if they choose to go in a direction that I would never encourage. Yes.
Are you like talking about the president?
That's what I started off with. I'm sorry, you were outside, but yeah, when I started this, I started off by saying that.
Oh, you didn't think he should have been censored?
No. Why should he be censored?
Because the people, he caused the people to attack,
Did he?
yeah.
Did he stand out there and say, go do this?
Well, not outside, but.
Okay, so then what else do you censor? So when Kamala Harris says we need an uprising in America, should she be censored too?
Yeah, well, yeah.
Okay. So then what else are you gonna censor?
Anything that's bad.
Oh, okay, all right.
Either I don't know for neither party, but.
Yeah.
I
So
agree with.
do you agree with abortion?
No.
No. Do you know that in many cases you're in the minority opinion? And so if you think abortion should be, I know, okay. So if you think abortion should be illegal, should you be censored for that?
People could do that, but.
I know, but should you be censored for that? Should you be censored for that? If you posted on your social media, abortion should be illegal, should they censor you for that?
Well, I mean, it's not.
Should they censor you for that? Yes or no?
No.
But why not? Many people think that's bad.
Because it's not. Well, my
Say-
it's not.
Say it.
It's not, like, I'm not killing anybody, I'm not.
Okay, so again, who then determines that, right? Do you see what I'm saying? Did the president kill anybody?
I think poor people died of.
He killed them?
Well, I mean, because of what he said.
Oh, see, but there were members of Congress who were shot by Bernie Sanders supporters. So should Bernie Sanders be censored and put in prison or whatever? See, that's what I'm getting at. It's very dangerous for us to start doing this third-party censorship because of what you encouraged or what somebody else encouraged. The better thing is always to hold accountable the people who do the crimes. Okay? So this is a beautiful conversation. Let me give you an example that gets at the concept that you seem to agree with. So Brandon preaches a sermon that says abortion is a sin, which it is, and that it should be stopped. And then Bethel, I'm gonna pick on you. Bethel takes his beautiful Jeep and he rams it into an abortion clinic, killing many people. Am I responsible for that?
No.
I'm not responsible for that.
It was your belief, and
He acted on his own. Yes, he acted on his own. When you start to hold somebody who did not do the crime responsible for someone who did do the crime, where do you stop? Where do you stop? It is a wiser thing to just hold the people responsible for any criminal behavior. Hold the people that did the criminal behavior, hold them responsible, and not leverage it for your own personal gains. I don't like the president, therefore let's get him for this because he's responsible. No, when somebody commits a crime, you know who's responsible? Whoever committed the crime. And that's where you keep the accountability. So I believe abortion's a sin. I believe abortion's a sin. But because I believe abortion's a sin and will teach and preach that publicly, that does not mean that I'm responsible for somebody who takes a car and rams it into an abortion clinic. But the same logic would hold that is being applied today. And what I'm saying is we need to be careful, because we all want to cheer the censoring of somebody we disagree with. But tomorrow it may be you that is being disagreed with, and then you get censored. And freedom of speech is a much healthier cultural component than celebrating censorship. Go ahead.
Like, I'm nobody, but I have my beliefs of abortion, and I hear it all the time when I would like post it or whatever. Trump is something, and like he has more power, so like,
So what?
he's you know.
Okay, so let me give them. This is beautiful. Let me give you a counter. Let me give you a counter. So President-elect. No, listen. Stay with me. Okay. President-elect Joe Biden said that it's obvious that the Capitol Police stood down, quote unquote, even though they didn't. But let's just play that they did. Stood down, and he says that that would have been different if they were black and not white. Okay, so what does that do about racism in America? Does that increase it or decrease it? It increases it. It's racial pandering. It increases it. So now, if racism increases, is that Joe Biden's fault?
It's already there.
Oh, okay, but is it Joe Biden's fault then? See, you don't want to answer it, because to answer it is to speak to the opposite. Here's the beauty of this, that all of us have to be very careful about when we hold positions. We are all tempted to hold positions that are convenient for us. That are convenient for us. It's, if I like it, I want it to be the case. If I don't like it, I don't want it to be the case. And the fact of the matter is, in a free society, you have to be open to things that you don't like. Do I like the fact that weed is legal in California? I don't like that. But am I going to go march in the streets because it's now illegal? No, because what I would prefer is that people develop a godly mindset, thus say no to weed, than to just make it illegal. No one wants to hear me on that. Do you see what I mean? There's tons of things. See, does Brandon approve of prostitution? No. Okay? But in terms of its enforcement, it's pretty legal, right? The enforcement measures for prostitution is pretty legal, meaning it's not legal, but it happens, right? Okay, there's not a massive crackdown on that. What I would prefer is that pimps love God and not love money, so that they stop pimping girls out there, and that girls have more self-respect for themselves than to sell their bodies for cash. Does it make sense? See, the goal of the Christian isn't to change the laws. The goal of the Christian isn't to promote censorship. The goal of the Christian is to, through the power of Jesus, to change hearts. Okay? And what we want to be careful about is when we start doing this third-party guilt. Okay? Well, Kelly says, well, I'm a nobody. Well, you're a somebody to somebody. You want to know how to stop racism, even though I don't think it's nearly the problem that people think it is? You want to know how to stop racism? Number one is don't be a racist. Number two is don't let people around you in your circle be comfortable with being racist. If everybody followed 1 and 2, how many racists would there be? Right? But we want to look to somebody that doesn't even know you and say, well, they're the reason for racism. This is nonsense. Go ahead.
Oh, because I have like Native American friends, and they posted like, oh, if it would have been to be other my Native Americans, they would have had I don't know what bullies and.
See, but that's nonsense. That's nonsense. Look, what happened to the Minneapolis police station? Do you know what happened to the Minneapolis police station? See, that's the problem. It's ignorance. See, the Minneapolis police station, no, let's stay with me, was completely burned down. Completely burned down. Why? Because the police vacated. They just left. What happened in Seattle with the auto whatever, somebody help me. What's the name of that thing? Chad. What was that? You literally had BLM Antifa folks take over a portion of the city in Seattle. Oh, wait, also in Portland. Oh, wait, also in Atlanta. So hold on. So to say that, well, they didn't do anything. Well, they did do some things. Ashley Babbitt would argue that they did some things. Okay. But to say that, well, if they had been Native American, they would have, if they had been black, they would have, no, because the truth is all summer long, cops were doing absolutely nothing to stop major damage. Ask the mayor of Chicago why she begged Walmart to please come back. Please come back from what? From the fact that one of the largest Walmarts in all of America was completely destroyed by Antifa BLM folks. See, but no, we want to go like, oh, I'm going to picky choosy with what I actually pay attention to. And what I'm saying is thuggery, whether it's a white person, a black person, a Native American, whether it's because you're mad because of this or mad because of that, thuggery in the Christian's mind should never be acceptable. It should never be acceptable. And we need to be consistent, even if the world is not consistent. So do I think people who are mad about the election should get guns and go shoot people? No. Do I think people who are mad about George Floyd should get guns and go shoot people or whatever? No. And when we try to play this, well, it's okay for one, but it's not okay for another. It's a very dangerous thing. The other thing, and I haven't said this, but I'll say this because it needs to be said. The other thing is we have to be careful of what information sources we take in. One of the things that's so true about the internet is you can literally create an echo chamber around yourself. And what I mean by an echo chamber is where you only hear what you want to hear. And so information will come in and you can literally silence information you don't want to hear and only listen to the information you do want to hear. And so ask yourself, what is the information that I take in? What is the information that I take in? And do I ever listen to opposing viewpoints? Do I ever understand? So like when I asked you about the Minneapolis Police Department, you had no clue. You should ask yourself, why is it that I didn't know that? Okay, why is it that I didn't know that? All right, because to not know that is to say there's an ocean of information out there that exists that I'm not aware of. And thus I'm making my decisions and choices and drawing my conclusions and forming my positions based on half or maybe even less than half of the information. Go ahead. And then I'm going to move on to the Bible study.
Well, when the Native Americans had they were standing for the water or whatever, they were not doing nothing, and the police, they attacked them way differently than DC, and they attacked somebody that was just.
So tell me, do you know, when I say Ashley Babbitt, do you know who that is? Okay, so she was unarmed. She's an unarmed white woman who was killed at the Capitol by a police officer, security. Okay, so how many people died in and what you're talking about is the pipeline, when the Native Americans were protesting because they didn't want the pipeline built on native land, right? Okay.
The sacred land.
Yeah. Okay. Sacred land determined by them. Okay. It's not sacred land to me, right? Okay. How many of them were shot and killed?
I don't know.
Okay, so we might want to know that, right? Before we say that one was treated one way and another was treated another way, because Ashley Babbitt's family would probably say that her being shot by police is a pretty effective deterrent, right? Okay, so what I'm saying is we want to be careful when we begin to celebrate censorship. We want to be careful when we celebrate censorship, because if you don't think a Democrat president and a Democrat Congress is not going to come for the churches, then I don't know what to tell you. Because that's about that. I mean, that will be part of it. Okay. And as a Christian, I really don't care, because I don't expect the world to embrace us. But just be mindful that when you celebrate censorship, eventually you will be the next censored. And when you say, no, it will never be me because I believe in sensible things. As Kelly said, I don't endorse violence. Well, when somebody says your anti-abortion position is violence against me because it makes me feel bad for the fact that I've had 4 abortions. And if you don't understand that, do you know that there's this thing, silence is violence? So not only are your words now considered violence, when you fail to speak up to support the leftist mindset, that's even considered violence. So someday when they say you got to put a black circle on your social media profile page and you don't, then you will be identified as somebody that needs to be censored because you're not following along, because silence is violence. And so we just want to be very careful about that, because once censorship is celebrated, it will just continue to grow and grow and grow. And if you don't think that Christians are high on the list of those to be censored, if not worse, then I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to tell you, because and again, you can, there's so many easy ways to find this information out for yourself, but I would argue to look at the Democratic platform and ask yourself whether or not that is a pro-Christian platform, right? So anyway, all I'm saying is be careful about celebrating censorship of anybody. I would advocate, if somebody said this horrible atheist was censored, I would say that's a sad thing. It's a sad thing. I want atheists to be able to get their message out. And I want Christians to be able to get our message out and let people choose. All right. So I chose to say that in part because that's the theme of our Bible study. What? It is. So I got like 20 minutes. Whew. No, we need some of this though. We need some of this because we need to understand how this impacts us as children of God. Okay, so here's the thing. Like I told you, the Gospel of John is super unique, and it has all these different things that are unique about it. Well, in the sections in chapter 6, 7, and 8, in chapter 6, 7, and 8, you get this beautiful gift, which is John shows us the debate amongst the people over Jesus. Let me say that again. So if you're a note taker, here's what you need to take note of. In 6, 7, and 8, John begins to show us the debate amongst the people over Jesus. Okay? Now, because I don't, I'm all panicking because there's not a lot of time. Look at John 6:43. Okay, look at John 6:43. Will somebody please read that?
John 6:43.
Yeah, go ahead.
Stop grumbling among yourselves, Jesus answered.
Oh, okay. Jesus tells them to stop what? Grumbling amongst themselves. Okay, I'm going to come back to this in a second, but note that word grumble. Okay, however you do that, note that word. Go over to verse 61 of chapter 6. Somebody read that.
But Jesus, knowing in himself that the disciples were grumbling about this, said to them, Do you do take offense at this?
Very good. All right. Do you see the word? You got that word grumbling? Highlight that, underline that, whatever you do. Okay. Now I want you to look at chapter 7 and verse 43. Go over to chapter 7 and verse 43. Someone, Norman, you want to go ahead.
So a division occurred in the crowd because of it.
You guys got that? Do that. Underline that, highlight that, whatever you need to do. Read it one more time, please.
So a division occurred in the crowd because of him.
Okay, so was there grumbling? Was there division? Yes, right? There's grumbling and there's division. And it's about who? It's about Jesus. It's about Jesus. Okay? All right? We get this? So first, when you leave this morning, I want you to leave knowing that the Gospel of John, unlike the other Gospels, gives you these storylines, these examples of the fact that people were grumbling and divided over Jesus. All right. So now go back to chapter 6, and I, like I told you, I said at the very beginning, I hope you got good sleep, or I hope you're caffeinated, something. But so we're going to get our last grumbled word, and then we're going to walk into where you get grumbling in 43. So someone will now read John 6, 41 through 43. Okay, Kelly?
Therefore the Jews started complaining about him because he said, I am the bread that came down from heaven. They were saying, isn't this Jesus, the son of Joseph, whose father and mother we know? How can he now say, I have come down from heaven? Jesus answered them, stop complaining among yourselves.
Okay, good. Boom. All right. So do we see grumble or complain or whatever again? Right. And then you get, what were they debating? So it says grumbling, but it's basically like they're debating, they're arguing, they're hashing this out. And according to the middle verse, verse 42, what is the debate? Okay, so he's saying he's the bread that came down from heaven, yet what? They know him. They're like, wait a minute. Okay? No, we used to play hopscotch with this kid. You see what I'm saying? Right? Remember Jacks? Where you had the ball and you bounce the ball and then you scoop the Jackstone? What? Okay, whatever we call it. But like you play, but in their mind, they're like, wait a minute, no, we know this guy. Like he played in our little league football program, right? Like I played baseball with this guy. Okay. And he's saying he's the bread of life, that he's the bread come down from heaven, huh? Say what? Yes? Do we get this? Okay. All right. Now go over to the second section that we looked at, deeper into chapter 6. So now if you look at verse 52, okay? Somebody read 52 through 54, please. John 6, 52 through 54. We're going to throw in another word here.
The Jews then disputed among themselves, saying, how can this man give us his flesh to eat? So Jesus said to them, truly, truly, I say to you, unless you eat the flesh of the Son of Man and drink his blood, you have no life in you. Whoever feeds on my flesh and drinks my blood has eternal life, and I will raise him up on the last day.
All right. Okay, so what word do we have in here that shows division? Verse 52. We're just building all these words. You have argued? Disputed, argued. Okay, you got that? And what are they disputing here?
How can you eat a man?
Yes, right? Because is Jesus making these really powerful, profound statements? Yeah, Jesus isn't speaking moderately, okay? He's speaking radically, and they're like, whoa, I don't know about this guy, right? Okay, so they're disputing, they're debating, okay? Now we get into verse 60, and if somebody will read again 60, 61, and 62, please.
On hearing it, many of the disciples said, this is a hard teaching. who can accept it? Aware that his disciples were governed about this, Jesus said to them, does this offend you? Then what if you see the Son of Man ascend where he was before?
All right. Okay. See, now how awesome is this, right? Okay. So does Jesus agree that this is a hard saying? Yeah, he does, right? He's like, I'm laying it out there for you guys. Okay. But then what does he say in 62? So awesome. What does he say? Uh-oh. Okay, so right, okay, Norman speaks this. You'll hear me say this from time to time. This is so powerful. Jesus is like, this is a hard saying. I hear you disputing. Then he says, but what if one day you see me ascend back to where I came from? So my question to you is this. What if one day you were to see Jesus ascend back to where he came from? What would that tell you about his claims, no matter how radical and powerful and grand his claims were? That they're true. Now, let me ask you this. You guys know this story. Will these disciples see him ascend back to where he came from? That don't give chills to anybody? That doesn't give you chills. It gives me chills. See, this is the debate. This is the debate, right? Jesus does not diminish the power of his claims. He does not diminish them. He just says, but what if? What if it happens to be true? What if it happens to be true? And what if I will do things that prove its authenticity, that proves its truth? You get me or you don't get me? Right? Okay. Now, let's look at this last section in chapter 6 before we go back to chapter 7. Someone, 66 through 69, please. Chapter 6, 66 through 69.
As a result of this, many of his disciples withdrew and were not walking with him anymore. So Jesus said to the 12, you do not want to go away also, do you? Simon Peter answered him, Lord, to whom shall we go? You have words of eternal life.
All right. Good. No, I apologize. Well, no, finish the next verse, please.
You have believed and have come to know that you are the Holy One of God.
All right. Okay. So remember, our theme for this month is what? Join Jesus. Okay. According to this section, did everybody join Jesus? No. Did people walk away? They walked away. Why did they walk away? What? Well, okay, they didn't have faith, but if you were to interview them, why would they say they walked away? Yeah, well, I'll come right. What? Yeah, like this dude's crazy. That's crazy stuff. Norman?
Yeah, controversial teaching.
Controversial. Like, man, I'm not following this guy. Like, hey, man, when he fed us, right? When he fed us there's 5,000 of us and he fed us, I'm in for that. But when he starts talking about he's the bread of life and from heaven and we got to eat his blood, I'm like, I'm not signing up for that one. I'm out. But then Peter says what? Where am I going to go? Right? You have the words of eternal life. And then verse 69 says, we believe what? You're the Holy One of God. Do you see this debate? Some are like, nah, this dude's radical. I ain't following this. And then others are like, wait a minute. What am I going to turn to? You're the Holy One of God. See, this is still true in 2021. The goal of preaching Jesus isn't to water it down and dilute it and say, Jesus will be whatever you want him to be. Okay? You now think boys can have babies and Jesus can be what you want him to be. No. Is Jesus still the Holy One of God? The one that came to save the world? And do we still need to eat of his flesh and drink of his blood? We still do. And for anybody who chooses to turn away from that, what are they turning to? Death, destruction that we talked about last week. Remember? Darkness and death. Where else are you going to turn? Because where do you find eternal life? In Jesus, and where else? And nowhere else. And Peter understood this. Peter understood that you either turn to Jesus or you're turning to darkness and death. So if Jesus says, you got to eat of my flesh and drink of my blood, what do you say? Amen. Let's go. Because where else are you going to go? Do you see how John gives us this debate? Yes.
So it'd be Antichrist as well, or
What do you mean?
like, would it be Antichrist if they don't want to do?
Well, yeah. So the term Antichrist, as we see from John's writings in 1 John and 2 John, is really about the false teachers who taught that Jesus wasn't God in the flesh. Okay, but in a very general way, anyone who is against Jesus is Antichrist. So in that respect, yes. But when you see the term used in the scriptures, it's really a reference to those that were actively teaching that Jesus wasn't God come in the flesh, when you see it used in John's other epistles. But do we get this idea though? Right? Do we see this? Okay, so let's. Okay, I'm gonna give myself at least 5 more minutes. All right. Okay. Go over to chapter 7. Go over to chapter 7, and look at this. And just tonight when you pray, just say a special prayer of thanks that God got to use John in this way for us. Okay, so look at verse 12. Somebody read 12 and 13. John 7, 12 and 13.
And there was a lot.
But
And there was a lot of murmuring about him among the crowd. Some were saying he's a good man, others were saying no, on the contrary, he's deceiving the people. Still, nobody was talking
Publicly? Is that the word? Yeah, publicly. Okay, so in verse 12, what are the opposing positions on Jesus?
They either say like he's a good man or he's deceiving.
That's it. You guys see that? You see the debate? These people are murmuring, they're discussing, they're debating amongst themselves. They're looking at Jesus and they're whispering to each other. I think he's a good guy. No, he's leading people astray. I think he's a good guy. Okay, got this? Look at verse 20. David, you were going to read earlier. Why don't you read verse 20?
the crowd answered, "You have a demon. Who is seeking to kill you?"
Okay, so what's another position about Jesus? Yeah, this guy's crazy. He must be possessed by a demon. You got it? Yeah? Okay. And David, will you please just drop down to verse 25 and read 25 through 27?
Some of the people of Jerusalem therefore said, "Is not this the man whom they seek to kill? And here he is speaking openly, and they say nothing to him. Can it be that authorities really know that this is the Christ?"
Uh-oh. Do you see what they're saying here? What's the power in this passage? It's all put in the form of questions, but what is the question that they're thinking to themselves?
They're thinking if the Jews aren't stopping him teaching, then do they really know this is wrong?
That's it. Wait a minute. They act like they don't believe this dude, but they're not stopping him. Is it just quite possible that they actually know that this guy is who he claims to be? You with me or you're not with me? You see the debate? So is he demon possessed or is he really the Christ? Okay, now watch. Let's okay, here he brings about. Drop down to 40, and if somebody will read verse 4, so chapter 7 still, and I'm sorry I'm bouncing around, but trying to shove this all in. chapter 7, 40 through 46. Chapter 7, 40 through 46.
On hearing his words, some of the people said, surely this man is a prophet. Others said he is the Messiah. Still others asked, how can Messiah come from Galilee? Does not Scripture say that the Messiah will come from David's descendants and from Bethlehem, the town where David lived? But some people were divided because of Jesus. Some wanted to seize him, but no one laid a hand on him. Finally, the temple guards went back to the chief priests and the Pharisees, who asked them, why didn't you bring him in? No one ever spoke this way. This man does, the guards replied.
Uh-oh. Okay, do you get this? Look, I'm shutting my Bible. Okay, all right. But do you see this? Do you see the debate? Is he the Christ, right? Okay, and then the guards who didn't arrest him, what did they claim? Look at their actual words. Look at their actual words. Their specific words are really important. No one ever spoke like this. No one ever spoke like this. See, this is such a gift to us because it's eternal. You know, as long as this world exists, this debate will always still play out. Whenever you are going to do something hard, it's going to cost you. Okay? It might cost you money. It might cost you pain. It might cost you discomfort, loneliness, whatever, right? But it's going to cost you something. And so what you begin to do is the harder you see that something's going to be, you begin to say, do I really want it? And so did some people want Jesus arrested?
Yes.
They did. But why didn't the officers arrest him? Because they knew there's something special about this guy. All right? So let me finish it up by this way. Why is it that you still do hard things even if there's a cost? Because it's worth it. Because it's worth it. The question about Jesus isn't a matter of whether or not he comes with a cost, because Jesus comes with a cost. The real question is whether or not he's worth it. And so if it is true that he spoke like no one before him, if it is true that even the authorities of the day didn't want to capture him because they knew that he was probably the Christ. If it is true when he says, well, would you believe if you saw me return from where I came? And then he actually does that. What choice do you have? You either choose him, even though he comes at a high cost, and we'll talk about the cost and what it looks like in our sermon, or do you walk away because you're unwilling to pay the cost? What you don't get to do is dilute the cost. Meaning, I don't get to say, well, you know what? I want to buy a top-of-the-line Tesla, but I only want to pay $4,000 for it. Am I walking away with the Tesla? I'm not walking away with it, right? Okay, I might walk away with something, but it ain't going to be that. It's not going to be that because they're not going to sell it for that. Well, listen to the truth of this statement. Jesus ain't coming cheap. You either will eat of his flesh and drink of his blood, or you won't. And for anybody who doesn't know, because you never know who might listen to this, Jesus was never endorsing cannibalism. What he was saying is, you got to take all of me. And here's the reality of this. We sometimes push back on that with Jesus, but which of you want somebody to push back on you like that? Which of you wants somebody to take part of you, but not all of you? You know what I mean? It's sort of like, hey, if we're going to be tight, this is what you're getting, okay? This is what you're getting. And you're either going to take all of me or you get none of me, but this is what I come with all this. Yeah? But it's the same with Jesus, amen? A woman?
It's really hard being friends with you.
Yeah, what?
It's really hard being friends with you when they say that.
I know. But see, I take all of Norman. Okay? As you know, again, I had no gray hair before Norman. And then I had all gray hair after Norman. And so then ended up with no hair because no, but do we understand this? Don't you want to be taken for all that you are? You want to be taken for all that you are? Well, understand we need to take Jesus for all that he is. And the way he described that idea was to say, you got to eat of my flesh and you got to drink of my blood. And when somebody says, I don't want all of Jesus, I just want the parts I want. Well, then what we end up doing is we walk away. And when you walk away, you walk back to what we talked about last week, darkness and death. All right, we're done.